Hi all, this is a small video just to go through the status report which is regard to the Campaigns and Services Officer. Essentially this is just a video to update you on what I've done with regard to my manifesto and everything in between. So yeah, it's just a little video to go through what's happened over the past couple of months and what I plan for the next couple of months as well. Podcasting, I use it here at the moment. I've been trying to use it as much as I can over the past couple of months, and I think it's done a good bit because it takes a lot of the hassle of kind of leafleting, that kind of way. You can get a really good feel for a person's one-on-one view with regard to an issue like fees or something like this, like a status report. I think it adds a personal level to it. So I'm going to keep podcasting. My aim is to do it week by week, campaign by campaign. It's just another means of using media to get out to students and ensure that they can watch it at any time. So hopefully it's kind of handy for you guys. It might be in the library or it might be at home. So that's podcasting. Promotional groups were a big thing for me because I thought that they would take away from the cost of running certain events on campus, and it has been difficult to track a few down. One of my big things over the next couple of weeks and into the second semester will be looking for quite large promotional groups for Charity Week. With the amount of money that is currently not available in the Students' Union, our best bet is to push for some kind of group to jump on. Now, there is a fine line between something like an alcoholic group or a normal group that could jump on, and there's a shady area there, so I'm going to push whatever I can. I'll take all and any suggestions that we can to make Charity Week as big as we can for us and as big as we can for the charities that are involved. Also this year, Crack Banter Shenanigans crew were set up, and I'm kind of revisiting them again. I think that in essence it was a good idea for something like Freshers Week, but for something like campaigns it doesn't seem to be working. I think people enjoyed the idea of maybe getting a ticket to something, and I think it was at a cost to even myself. And I think that I'm going to re-establish Crack Banter and Shenanigans and kind of integrate it with something like the President's Volunteer Award. It seems like it's far more beneficial at the end of the day, because you'll get something from helping out and you'll get something from being involved. So that is promotions groups. Fecking Fivers was something that we had years ago. It was literally a gig for a fiver, and in Freshers Week we ran the phone party. That was just a fiver, and the logo that we created for it is something that I kind of want to see more and more. I think there's a lot of emphasis on getting buses to things and paying for an expensive act, and it doesn't always have to be that way. So I'm going to be pushing kind of for definitely more and more Fecking Fivers acts. I think that it's essential that we have those little nights, those little awesome nights that are pretty good, and that we expand them a little bit. Stuff like UV parties and phone parties, they're all being done, and they're kind of being done to death. So I'll take every and any suggestion that will add to the Fecking Fivers experience. I mean, the lube party alone costs £3 to run, and it brought in a good crowd, and it was a pretty good night as well. So Fecking Fivers is a thing that I want to kind of establish a little bit more, bring it back and make it a core of the Students' Union, because if we want to keep it cheap for our students, that's probably as cheap as we can go, so why not keep it that way? So that's Fecking Fivers. Bring your own beer nights were something that were used last year, and they got a lot of controversy about how much people could bring and stuff like that. I think it's kind of it's a bit dodgy saying to people, oh, bring your own beer, no bother, and then I say to you, well, you're only allowed to bring 3. I think that's a bit, it's not right, kind of imposing something like that. And I would much prefer something that was, it was served there, you could just relax, or something like that, like a cinema screen, that there was a bar near it, or maybe there doesn't even necessarily need to be a bar, that it's something that, it's your choice. I mean, I'd hate to think people that would think that I was pushing the idea of an alcohol venue, but something like bring your own beer parties was what was on my manifesto, and they're quite hard to establish, because what stops someone from bringing 48 bottles of beer and then destroying themselves, and then you're answerable then to the university for, I suppose, allowing that to happen. But I think one of the biggest things the university are afraid of are people drinking in their house and consuming that large amount of alcohol. I would much prefer that if people were drinking, they could drink on campus, and that we could look after them, and that we could provide some kind of entertainment for them as well. Because I mean, to come to an experience like that, even if you do bring booze or not, it has to be worthwhile, and it can't be just everyone sitting around in a circle getting drunk. I think that paints the wrong picture, really. So I kind of need a little bit of help with this one. This one is kind of treading on murky water, so if anyone would like to get involved with regard to bring your own beer party, by all means you can contact me at any stage. In my manifesto I said that I would push for greater acts, and with that comes greater expenditure. And now, as most of you might know, the union is in a particularly tough place with regard to money and how much we can spend, and something like entertainments is self-generating. So you can say cheaper gigs and better acts and all that kind of stuff, but the money has to come from somewhere. It's with that I've come up with a particularly novel way next semester to pay for a particularly expensive act. I won't go into details now, but it is something that I'm going to put a lot of effort into. If I can pass the saving on to you, then that is a job well done. Pushing bigger acts, I'm taking any suggestions whatsoever. But bear in mind, when we're looking at acts, you two are definitely not going to come. Not that I think many of you will go see them, but we're taking any suggestions. And if I can build on that and work on them, then perfect. We have a set out list of people that we can get. So over the next coming weeks and going into Charity Week, we'll be surveying you about what you'd like to see. And then we start working towards whether or not we can spend that type of money on getting them there. Bear in mind, with any act comes stage lighting and all that kind of stuff. I'm putting every effort I can into making the entertainments as good as they are this year. Freshers Week was fantastic, but not to keep riding on the back of that. Halloween could have done better, could have been bigger, even though the bands and the music were fantastic. Someone like me always wants to see packed out, a full place. So that's what we'll be looking for. The biggest thing that we want to do is just have that atmosphere. It's the same atmosphere that I would have gotten at my charity weeks, and we kind of need that to generate money as well, to generate the money for charity, so that when it comes to our turn, unlike Galway, we will not end up having to go down the line going, well, you know, do we cancel it? Is it worth it anymore? I think with a big act you generate people in, and that's what I'll be pushing for, and I'll be pushing for the biggest of the biggest act we can afford. So that's greater acts. The Average Joe Olympics was a crazy idea I came up with while running for election 2 years ago, and it involves basically our own Guinness Book of Records, and we come up with, say, 100 tasks, 100 different things that students could challenge themselves on doing, like walking on fire, fitting, 100 boiled eggs in your mouth or something, and then they go down in history for that year. I've actually found a particularly old book, that kind of leather bound spell book type of thing, and I think it should take pride of place in the Students' Union, and then for the following year it's the record to beat. I think the best thing to do for this would be integrated into Charity Week and have that one day of just all those kind of festivities. I think it would be something that adds a kind of new dimension to Charity Week, so I'll probably work towards that a good bit. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, by all means send them in. I'm going to go around and see what people think should be added into the book. I'm looking for 100 exactly. So by all means, if you have any ideas, the craziest type of stuff you can come up with, please add them in, because more than likely they're going to get there. I can think of about 20 on the spot, but I think that'd definitely be worthwhile throwing your name in on that. Every year everyone gets crowned a champion at the different things that they do, and so jump in and throw us out some crazy ideas. I'll probably be surveying for those some stage in the second semester, and I'll see if it is within reason to do them, so by all means send them in. Thanks very much. American Red Cup parties and keggers. This was something that I noticed from American college. They do that, kind of tap a beer keg and everyone's around in a circle, and it's that kind of frat house kind of party. I really like the idea of them, but it's, when you deal with two bars on campus, it's very difficult to kind of say, well, we're tapping a keg in the middle of the courtyard. What I'm going to be doing over the next while is chatting to either two of the groups to see would they get involved in just hosting something in the centre of the courtyard. When we did Oktoberfest, UL Men's Rugby held International Suit Up Day as well, and in the courtyard there was just there's so many people. They put all the tables out, and it looked fantastic. I mean, why can't we do that on a regular basis? And when fundraising for bone marrow and leukemia, we did a Red Cup party. We were basically playing beer pong, and it's those type of games. It got a good few people in, and it got people, out of their houses and maybe having a crack with a bigger crowd. So I'm probably going to be pushing for those as much as I can. Whether or not they come into something like Charity Week or they are an event in themselves, maybe part of something like Feck and Fivers, I'll definitely be pushing for them. But the big issue is having something like a keg and tapping it on someone, or having it available to such a large group of people. And how do you kind of police that? There's a lot of issues surrounding it, but I'll definitely be looking into it as much as I can for second semester. In my manifesto I said that Fresher Fest had to be the big one, the thing that opens up the university a little bit for everyone to come in, and we sold out absolutely everything, so I'm particularly proud of that. But I think a lot of the props have to go to Keith Quinlan, who put a lot of effort into it. It was a fantastic event, and it's gone very well. So on to the next one and roll on whatever gigs come our way next. Themed nights out. These are what I was looking at with regards to something like a superhero party, or like Misfits kind of night or something like that. And I kind of think that the clubs and all that around the place are jumping in and taking them anyway, But I think one of the things that we'll try to do in the second semester is kind of mystery tours, hook up with the clubs that are around the country and jump in with team nights. Sometimes team nights can be a little bit gimmicky, and they don't have a tendency to sell or get a good crowd, and you end up kind of pushing towards a kind of class reps night out, and that's not really something I want. If we're going to go theme night, it should be a lot of people in one area, But ever since I saw a lot of the clubs doing theme nights and stuff like that, I got a bit disparaged from it. I didn't really like it too much, but we can definitely look into it. If you have any ideas on what you'd like to do, please by all means get in contact. On my manifesto I mentioned a thing called release parties. Now, release parties were something that were taken up to take Friday nights back by a club in town, and I liked the idea of them. But essentially what I wanted to do was bring certain nights to certain kind of faculties and stuff like that. And as far as I'm aware, both the education officer and the faculty officers are doing that with regard to balls and stuff like that. So faculty balls, not other balls. But that's kind of out of my remit then. If that's what's happening, that's perfect. But I think it's being done anyway, so that's probably... It hasn't had any influence, or haven't had any influence at all, but luckily people are doing that themselves, and it's good to see. Charity Week. Now, Charity Week will take a huge amount of planning, and after the exam support and I-grade awareness weeks that we're doing, the full throttle is on for Charity Week. This one has to be big. Galway already are pushing to get rid of, or got rid of theirs. The student council voted on it. I don't know whether or not the students themselves like the idea of it, but it now poses a bit of a threat to our own. If we hold a Charity Week, what stops other colleges coming to it? Or what stops, the same instances that happened in other colleges happening in ours? We had M&M's running, and it worked very well. It was fantastic, and we raised a lot of money for charity. But I do not want the focus of the week to be lost. Charity Week is always about having the banter, having the crack, and enjoying yourself. Of course with a few points, of course enjoying yourself like any other normal person would. But we have a tendency to go into excess, and I know more than anyone else that I'd be the same. But the focus has to be brought back to the idea of charity. That's why the main focus of Charity Week will be the acts themselves that are playing and the charities that they're playing for. It will be a huge push to give an in-depth look at the charities that we're talking about, and I think that's how we get more people involved. I'd like volunteers to go out and visit each of the 4 charities when they're chosen. I think it'll make us think twice about maybe doing what would have been done during previous Charity Weeks.